On Valley News Live at 10, the state issues a fire emergency, how rural fire departments are coping.
Protect your drink as police in Fargo are now looking into 5 drugging cases at bars.
Plus, a look at grounded flights across the nation. We'll tell you when and if those flights will come back. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Trouble tonight for one of North Dakota's top tourist attractions. 2 National Guard helicopters were deployed to help fight a wildfire that prompted the evacuation of Medora in the southwestern part of the state.
The Forest Service says nearly 10,000 acres have burned. The governor has called a statewide wildfire emergency.
Rural firefighters in both Minnesota and North Dakota are working tirelessly, and without rain, the situation will only get worse.
Valley News Team's Courtney Lockie talked with crews who are preparing for the long stretch.
Trevor Steve spends his spare time volunteering at the fire hall in Pelican Rapids.
28 years.
Even more so recently. In all his years, he hasn't seen a spring like this.
It's going to be a long stretch.
And he says he knows it's just the beginning.
So that's what
While he and his crew haven't had to fight any major fires yet this season, they're preparing.
You don't know what you're getting yourself into. You just have to mentally prepare on the way out. You train for all types of calls.
During a critical fire threat in North Dakota and northwest Minnesota, nearly every county in both states has implemented burn bans as wildfires sprout in many regions. Medora was evacuated, and a fire in Minnesota has burned for nearly 13,000 acres.
they had already had 17 fires as of yesterday morning. We are a month ahead of schedule.
It's the extreme drought conditions paired with the wind that's more than tripled the acreage burned by wildfires in all of last year.
It's time-consuming, it's nerve-wracking, it's stressful on the firefighters, it's stressful on the firefighters' families.
With no sign of conditions improving, rural crews like this one are asking that you do your part in keeping the community safe. Courtney Lockie, Valley News Live.
We also reached out to the Red Cross. They tell us in the past month they've seen a 60% increase in the amount of calls they've responded to.
And our weather forecast doesn't hold any good news in terms of battling those blazes, but the temperature sure will feel nice. So let's begin with Hutch and a first look at what's to come. Hutch?
Mike, thanks so much. As we take a look, it's been very dry. We've had the red flag warnings in effect, but they just were allowed to expire for most of our area as we head into the overnight hours now. For a couple of reasons. Number one, the wind tapering off a little bit. There are the fire danger continuing in the Black Hills. We do have a few clouds passing overhead in the sky tonight as we look at temperatures across the region. It's cooled to the 30s in Minnesota, and we're still in the 40s here. And it's breezy on this side of the state as we look at dew points. Extremely dry, near 10 degrees out west, where things have been extremely dry. Here's a look at those wind speeds right now as well. And this might be a little bit of good news. The windiest of the weather has shifted away from the Medora area and the western Dakotas, and things there look to be a little bit quieter. So with any luck at all, they can catch up and get a little bit more containment to their blazes out there. We'll have details on your hour-by-hour forecast as we will have wind in the forecast here and warmer weather again. We'll have details in a minute.
All right, thanks, Hutch.
Fargo police say they are now up to 5 cases of men and women who say their drinks were drugged at various downtown Fargo bars. It's a story we first brought you nearly a month ago and have been the only news outlet covering it as the number of cases have piled up. So far, Fargo police say there are no patterns to these alleged druggings, saying there's no specific race, age, or bar that's targeted.
Confirm that your drink is being served directly by the bartender or the server. Don't allow people you don't know or trust to order drinks and deliver them to you. Watch your drink at all times. Never leave your drink unattended.
Fargo police urge caution not only for those drinking alcohol, but for those staying sober as well, saying the drugs can be slipped into a drink within seconds and they're odorless and tasteless. If you need help uncovering an issue in your community, call our whistleblower hotline and we'll do our best to get to the bottom of it. Call 237-6576 and leave your tip.
He was an unresponsive body on a cot. The airway was in place so that we could breathe for him, or so the responders could, or people could breathe for him. And the Lucas device was compressing his heart to get blood going through his body.
Living person, there should be a pulse there. I did not feel one. I suspected this patient to be dead.
George Floyd appeared to be motionless, not breathing, and still had officers on top of him. That's what first responders who treated Floyd testified during day 4 in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Camilla Bernal is in Minneapolis with the latest.
He was, limp.
First responders who treated George Floyd testifying Floyd seemed to be gone before they were able to help him.
We did pulse checks multiple times from when we arrived until we arrived at the stateroom at HCMC.
Did anyone ever find a pulse?
No, ma'am.
I suspected this patient to be dead.
Okay.
In lay terms.
Chauvin's former shift supervisor then testifying he responded to the scene and then went to the hospital where Floyd was taken.
What did the nurse tell you? That he was doing bad or poorly.
And not long after,
someone approached me and let me know that he passed away.
Never before seen body cam video showing Chauvin explaining in a call to his supervisor his account of what happened with Floyd. Initially, not mentioning he used his knee on Floyd's neck.
But we just had to hold the guy down. He was going crazy.
The former supervisor testifying the restraint used against Floyd was a commonly used technique.
For handcuffing somebody in a prone position or fighting with someone, it could happen where your knee ends up on their neck.
But also saying that it should have never lasted for as long as it did.
When Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers, they could have ended their restraint.
In Minneapolis, Camila Bernal, Valley News Live.
The Minneapolis police chief is expected to take the stand tomorrow.
The Inspector General for the United States Capitol Police has issued a scathing preliminary report about the Capitol riot earlier this year. The IG found the department failed to send out intelligence from as early as December 30th that suggested January 6th the protesters may become violent. The department was criticized in the report for failing to pass along a memo from the FBI office in Norfolk that warned about potential violence. Guns are flying off the shelves. More than 4 million Americans initiated background checks for gun purchases in the month of March. That's a 36% increase from February. The surge comes after several mass shootings that reignited America's conversation about gun control.
An anti-mask mandate drew an overflow crowd today at a North Dakota Capitol hearing. The bill barely passing the House and will now come under scrutiny in the Senate. Those in support say the government should not be able to mandate masks. Those opposed say it's necessary to protect the public.
Had we not been able to require masks and face coverings, we almost certainly would have had higher transmission rates and additional outbreaks and school closures.
The Senate Political Subdivisions Committee ended up recommending the bill not be passed by the state Senate.
Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney says masks will be encouraged in the city until more people have received the COVID vaccine. He says North Dakota will achieve herd immunity with a 70% vaccination rate. As of now, the state is only at 27%. 40% of people have received first doses, including roughly 45% of the population of Cass County. If you're looking to get a vaccine in North Dakota, you have more than 400 options. To compare them, you can use our VNL vaccine tracker. It's right on the homepage of our website, or you can open your phone camera and point it at the QR code on your screen, then tap the link that pops up.
One of those vaccine options many have been waiting for in Grand Forks. It's on its way. The one-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be available at community clinics on April 10th and 14th. It's approved for anyone 18 and older. We have information on how you can book a slot on valleynewslive.com. Just go there and click on this story.
Fake COVID vaccination cards are showing up on Twitter, eBay, and Shopify. Minnesota's Attorney General is one of 45 others urging the website's CEOs to monitor and remove that content. The Minnesota Department of Corrections says of the state's 7,600 should be fully vaccinated by next Friday. At this point, only 1/5 is fully vaccinated. The state DOC has been sued over its handling of the pandemic and whether its inmates' vaccination effort violated state law.
I feel as though I've gone through a lot of personal frustration.
With fewer flight options, passengers have been frustrated. Coming up on Valley News Live at 10, how the airlines are trying to orchestrate a return to service.
And it was a chilly start to our day. Here in the valley, we had teens, Bemidji single digits. We did warm up with south wind. I'll have details on even warmer weather next.